In the carnival-barked world of early professional wrestling, display was everything, and subtlety was optional. Promoters understood that the quickest way to sell tickets was to provoke, and few gimmicks embodied that philosophy more brazenly than the act built around William Olivas and the young valet who would later become the fabulous Moolah. Marketed as the elephant boy and slave girl Moolah, the pairing fused racialized spectacle, sexual provocation, and exoticism into a single combustible attraction, one designed to inflame audiences in an America still rigidly divided by segregation. Behind the curtain stood promoter Jack Pfefer, a master of sensationalism who understood that outrage translated into box office receipts. By repackaging William "Tony" Olivas as an exotic wild man and scripting an in-ring kiss that blurred the line between performance and social taboo, Pfefer created more than a wrestling storyline. He engineered a public reaction. The boos were real, the hostility was real, and in many towns, so was the danger. To revisit this gimmick today is to confront an uncomfortable truth about professional wrestling's past. Long before it became corporate entertainment, it was carnival theater. The story of Elephant Boy and Slave Girl Moolah is not just wrestling history. It is a revealing artifact of mid-century America, where spectacle, prejudice, and performance collided under the bright lights of the ring. What unfolded in the ring was scripted entertainment, but the emotions it unleashed were painfully real, and at times, dangerously so. William Olivas was born on March 26, 1921, in Ventura County, California, into a life that at first seemed destined for the priesthood, rather than the wrestling ring. As a young man, William immersed himself in his studies and planned to pursue languages before entering the seminary. His path appeared clear, a life of faith, scholarship, and service to the church. History, however, had other plans. When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor in December 1941, Olivas answered the call to serve. He joined the United States Army and became part of the combat engineers, a role that placed him in some of the most dangerous conditions of the war. He was among the American troops who landed at Omaha Beach during the D-Day invasion. From there, he moved through France and into Germany, serving not only as a soldier, but as an assistant to a frontline Roman Catholic chaplain. According to most accounts, Olivas befriended a fellow soldier who moonlighted as a professional wrestler to earn extra money. One evening, when his friend's scheduled opponent failed to appear, Olivas stepped in to fill the spot. What may have begun as a simple favor became the spark for a new direction. In that improvised match, he entered the wrestling profession. After his military discharge, the opportunity resurfaced more formally. A friend approached him about wrestling professionally on the Southern California circuit. By 1947, Olivas was working for California promoter Hugh Nichols, initially as a referee, and then as a wrestler under the name Billy Olivas. The former seminarian and war veteran had found himself in the rough-and-tumble world of post-war professional wrestling, a setting far removed from the quiet halls of religious study, yet one that would ultimately shape the most controversial chapter of his life. By 1949, the wrestling business, always hungry for spectacle, had begun reshaping William. At the urging of promoters, he leaned into a more exotic identity, with Mexico now billed as his homeland. They encouraged him to grow his hair long, cultivating a bushy, unruly look that would distinguish him from clean-cut American babyfaces. That transformation accelerated when he crossed paths with independent booking agent Jack Pfefer. Pfefer was a master of wrestling's carnival instincts, a promoter who understood that audiences would pay as much for fantasy as for competition. Under Pfeffer's direction, Olivas underwent the most dramatic reinvention of his career. He became Elephant Boy, a character modeled loosely on the cinematic image popularized by Sabu Dastagir. the star of 1930s adventure films such as Elephant Boy, where Pfefer got the name, and The Jungle Book. As the Elephant Boy, Olivas was presented not as a man from Ventura County, but as something foreign and theatrical, a prince from a far-off land, draped in elaborate attire and framed as an attraction as much as a competitor. Pfefer further heightened the spectacle by pairing him with a young Lillian Ellison, years before she would become known worldwide as the fabulous Moolah. Under Pfeffer's direction, she was rechristened Slave Girl Moolah, dressed in a jungle-themed costume that was considered provocative for the time, and positioned as the Elephant Boy's devoted second. Their presentation was carefully choreographed. The Elephant Boy entered the arena dressed as an Indian prince, Moolah following behind as a supposed member of his harem. Central to the act was a dramatic cloak, which Moolah dutifully tended to between rounds. The cloak itself was given its own backstory. It was said to have once belonged to Catherine the Great and to be insured for $1 million. For most of his run as Elephant Boy, Tony Olivas worked as a heel, a rule breaker presented as a dangerous wild man from Borneo, a character designed to inflame crowds already primed to distrust the foreign and the unfamiliar. While he was Mexican, Olivas had very dark skin, a fact that blurred racial lines in the segregated United States and heightened tensions wherever he appeared. The controversy intensified when his white slave girl would kiss him on the cheek during their entrance routine. In certain territories, that single gesture provoked more outrage than any heel move ever could. At one show in Oklahoma City, a man who believed Olivas was black reportedly attempted to stab Ellison for kissing him. The reaction was not merely theatrical heat. It reflected the volatile racial climate of mid-century America, where performance could easily spill into real danger. One incident in Little Rock, Arkansas, haunted the duo long afterward. As Elephant Boy stood on the apron during a tag match, a young spectator rushed forward and grabbed his leg, attempting to pull him from the ring. He later recalled clinging to the top rope and instinctively kicking the boy in the face to break free. The blow split the spectator open. Blood spilled onto the floor. What began as outrage over the injury quickly shifted into something darker, as spectators began shouting about lynching the dark-skinned wrestler. For Olivas, playing the villain had always been part of the job. But in places like Little Rock, the hatred he faced was no longer confined to the script. For 5 or 6 years, Tony Olivas remained closely aligned with Jack Pfefer, and under Pfeffer's promotional machine, the Elephant Boy rose to become one of the top attractions in the country. In an era when wrestling territories were fragmented and visibility depended almost entirely on a promoter's reach, that kind of positioning mattered. Pfeffer's nomadic troupe traveled where the money was, and Elephant Boy was often at the top of the bill. However, as the story goes, the relationship between Pfefer and his prized attraction eventually deteriorated over money. Allegedly dissatisfied with his pay, or perhaps with the imbalance between the gates he helped draw and the compensation he received, Elephant Boy split from the promoter who had engineered his transformation. Despite threats from Jack Pfefer that he would be blackballed from the industry, Elephant Boy managed to carve out a long and resilient career in professional wrestling. No longer content to rely solely on promoters, he gradually shifted his ambitions toward promoting shows himself. Olivas traveled extensively across the United States and eventually organized an ambitious international tour that reached Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and even the Union of South Africa. However, his most significant battle as a promoter came in 1960 when he filed suit against Jim Crockett Sr. and Bill Lewis after being blocked from running shows in smaller Virginia towns. Olivas believed he was being deliberately frozen out by the National Wrestling Alliance's territorial system, which tightly controlled where promoters could operate and which wrestlers they could book. Frustrated, he wrote to Virginia Governor J. Lindsay Almond, alleging that the State Athletic Commission and even local Richmond newspapers were assisting what he described as an NWA monopoly. The dispute escalated to the point that the Federal Bureau of Investigation examined the matter for potential antitrust violations. By November 1960, federal authorities concluded there was insufficient evidence to prosecute. The case was dropped, and with it, Olivas' bid to break the NWA's grip on the region. It was a sobering reminder that in professional wrestling, success in the ring did not always translate to power behind the scenes. The post-wrestling chapter of Bill Olivas' life was far quieter than his days in the ring, yet it was no less remarkable. Through the mother of Dr. Jerry Graham, he met Martha, whom he married in 1961. Together, they ran a spa at Matilia Hot Springs, near where he was born, for 22 years, until her passing in 1988. Deepened by grief and reflection, Olivas turned more fully toward his faith. He became the Archdiocese's first permanent deacon, dedicating himself to the care of the sick and elderly. He later joined the Order of St. Augustine in 1991, resumed his seminary studies at St. John's Seminary, and was ordained an Augustinian priest. His contributions to his community were recognized in 2003 when the city of Ojai named him a living treasure. Olivas passed away at the age of 86 on February 6, 2008, with little fanfare in the press, yet his life remained a testament to transformation and devotion. Olivas' story reminds us that wrestling, for all its spectacle and controversy, was only one arena in a life marked by transformation. Whether facing hostile crowds, navigating the cutthroat politics of the NWA, or guiding communities as a deacon and priest, he approached every challenge with the same determination that once made him a captivating figure in the ring. His life bridges extremes, from the chaos of professional wrestling to the quiet devotion of spiritual service, demonstrating that identity is never fixed and that reinvention is always possible. In celebrating the Elephant Boy, we honor not just the performer or the promoter, but the human being who refused to be confined by expectations, leaving a legacy that inspires courage, perseverance, and a commitment to live fully, no matter the arena.